One of the places people can get tripped up in reverse engineering is around the question, what would have to be true? You've often said it's the most important question in strategy, but we see people struggle. It's not intuitive that that's the question you would ask. We tend to want to ask, what is true about the world? Say more about why it's so important to shift that question.
Yeah, I agree that we are taught throughout our lives to analyze the world and say what we think is true and argue what we think is true. So it is a little switch that can be difficult. Why it's so important is what it does is makes for a better dialogue among people if you're asking first what would have to be true and only later figuring out something about what is true. So if you have two people and you ask them what is true about a given situation, chances are they will get into an argument quickly. And you won't really understand exactly why they're arguing. Is it from different experience, different mindsets, whatever? If you ask what would have to be true, generally people agree pretty quickly on what would have to be true. Like in business, if you say, if we're going to do this, what would have to be true? Oh, well, customers would have to want this, and the distribution channel would have to believe in this, and our competitors would have to do this. Everybody can agree that's what would be required.
And in my experience of facilitating these conversations, I think it's important to recognize that we often naturally fall into what feels comfortable. So people will start stating conditions as if it is something that is true. Yes. And as the facilitator, it is just about a little bit of discipline at the beginning of the process to say, it may well be the case that customers value low prices. What would have to be true about customers and low prices for us to move forward with this strategy? And if you do that a couple of times in a relatively gentle way at first, it helps people recognize that it's a different language system, it's a different way of talking about this possibility, and they pretty much quickly get the hang of it. And one last point on reverse engineering, and it's one I know you and I have deep agreement on, the necessity of reverse engineering the current strategy, the status quo. Why is it so important to you?
You know, it is absolutely essential, and people often think I'm nuts when I start into it, because it's sort of like, well, we're doing it already. Why do we have to understand what would have to be true to do something we're already doing? And I sort of say that is the point. Often when you reverse engineer the status quo, they can see the riskiness in it, the uncertainties about, oh, are those things actually true or not? And that's what's important, because if you don't reverse engineer the status quo, they'll sometimes implicitly in their mind say, what we're doing now is risk-free, and all these options we're talking about, these possibilities, all have some inherent risk in them. And so the question is, do we take a risk and move to a different option, or stay with the absolutely risk-free current option? Of course, the current option is not risk-free. It's a question of, is it more risky or less risky than these options?
Yeah, it's about taking the privileged position that the status quo often holds and putting the status quo, the current strategy, on the same level.
Yes.
And holding it to the same standard of proof as any new possibility.
Absolutely. That's a great way to think about it.